Check. Okay, good. All right, you've waited long enough, and so have I. I'm trying to get everything together, and then there's so much stuff going on, and I got hi everybody. So I was just doing a promo for Nerd Hale and a podcast. It was really fun. Ryan Roxy had us on it, and it went about a half hour long, and so thanks for joining me relatively late on this Friday. And again, it's the morning show. So it can happen when it wants to happen. I don't know. I try to stick to a schedule, and I apologize for those of you that were we're hanging out at 9 a.m. going, what did I not get a memo? I tried to anyways. Hi, how are you? Happy Friday. It's already Friday. Jeez, this week is blazing by. I think my favorite thing this week so far is Republicans trying really hard to jumpstart outrage in the country. From the classified documents that Biden's team discovered and immediately turned over, and then went on a search to make sure there were no others, found some and turned those over immediately, versus Trump fighting a subpoena and holding off the National Archives for a fucking year while he shuffled documents around from the storage area to his office and back, to the Xerox machine and back, I guess. But to gas fucking stoves. Gas stove. I'm sorry, it was 2 hours. I beg your pardon, Joey. I apologize. I will only be on for 8 minutes for you. I'm sorry. It will end. If I can't start when it's supposed to, it will end when it's supposed to. So thanks, everybody. And bye, Joey. No. Welcome, chat room. Hold on one second. Let me open up the chat room here and say hi to folks who are probably miffed at me for. I got to do some promoting for the Nerd Halen gigs, because this is our first casino gig in Vegas. And if I could get a bunch of those happening, man, oh Shevitz, I could just drive to a show right there. I could, unlike times when I can't do this show, and then because I got a sound check and other stuff, I just roll right. I go right there. I could finish the show and whoop, drive right up and jump on stage. I could do this show dressed in my nerd outfit. It'd be fine. So where do you get the shirt? Nerdhalen.com. That's where Caleb is selling them, if we have any left. And I don't know. But yeah, there it is. Is it walking distance? Everything is walking distance. It's just a matter of commitment, Simon. Thanks, Medium T. I'm glad some of you got to see it. Hello, Illinois. We will be talking about Lori Lightfoot today, it seems. She's one of the trends that I noticed this morning. Thank you. I'm glad you're not miffed. I'm glad you're here. Magoo! Yay! Aw, Mark. Oh no, and you're ready to part with it? That's sad. It's a used Nerd Halen shirt. It's heartbreaking. Yes, I'm glad as well. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Who knows? We might get a new group of people for the morning show because it's a different time elsewhere. I mean, it's evening in Germany, if I'm not mistaken, right? So yeah, there we go. Yeah, great Nerd Halen stories. Yeah, that was a good time. Apparently they will post the recorded version, which my video was not staggered in. And again, you guys know when I have technical difficulties with my radio station or any of that kind of stuff, I always think it's me. So I'm throwing switches and doing all kinds of stuff, trying to make it work. And then it very often turns out to be whatever website they're using. And in this particular case, if the recording turns out to be fine and the broadcast version isn't, then it's obviously not the signal I'm sending. Right? I wasn't sending two signals, one that worked and one that was fucked up. So, hello, everyone. Excuse me. Yes, it is Friday the 13th. Welcome. The day the Catholic Church murdered the Templar Knights, where allegedly, according to history, a bishop uttered the words that is on patches worn by Marines now, that became a phrase, I guess, during Vietnam a lot, which was kill them all, let God sort them out. One of those macho patches you'll sometimes see. That was originally a phrase from a Catholic bishop, because they came upon a town where two of the Templars were living in that town in semi-retirement or something, and the town wouldn't tell the bishop and his forces who they were so they could bring them out and cut their heads off. So the bishop said to his commander, who said, they won't tell us who the Templar is in their town. And the legend has it, the bishop said, kill them all, God will know his own. Yeah, that's the phrase. And as as a Mason, I experience Friday the 13th different than others. And it's also why there's not a 13th floor is not necessarily the bad luck part of it, like it's witchcraft, but the fuck you to the old theocracy. Yep. Dan, what was their problem with the Templars? Well, apparently it had something to do with them. There's different stories. One is the Templar gold that they supposedly found, and then the real lineage of Jesus Christ, which is the whole Merovingian line that is the story that Mary had kids with Jesus and then moved to France, and her body's buried at the Roslin Temple, whatever, in outside of Edinburgh, which I've been to, which is lovely and has Masonic symbols inside it and all that story. Or just the fact that they had at that point, the papacy was a mask for the Roman Empire in ideological form. And at that point, they had to kind of there can be only one theory with any kind of belief systems and the like. Yeah, so there you go. Thank you for wishing me a happy 30th. Yeah, the Dan Brown stuff, which he took from that the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail. Some of his information, they sued him about it, but his thing was a work of fiction, and he took details from it, but they weren't the only people citing it, so blah, blah, blah. Anyways, there you go. That is your Friday the 13th tidbit. You're welcome. And hi, welcome. Glad you could be here. Happy Friday. Yeah, French king owed them money. That's part of it as well. Wait, what? Jesus was never married. Yes, he was. The idea was Mary was his wife, not his female companion, that she was from the house of Benjamin, and that they married as sort of in kind of a royal wedding almost. And then they had 3 children, all of whom went to live in France. And then one of them went north up into England, and the bloodlines, Mary Magdalene, the bloodlines of the French aristocracy and the British aristocracy is partially based on the idea that the one of Jesus's kids started that line, or infused it with holiness. That's the theory. That's where it comes from for the story. And by the way, there's no reason why it can't 100% be true and part of an earlier update of the sim we live in, and it was just wiped away in in one of the multiple security updates our sim that we all live in has had, and just is no longer true. But that doesn't mean it wasn't at the time. Just like Windows 5 and Windows 7. Windows 7 still exists and Windows 5 exists, but Windows 5 isn't in Windows 7. Does that make sense? And you can't use stuff from Windows 5 in Windows 7. Does that make sense? Anyways, all right. So, did you warp into a Sunday morning stream? Yes. Jesus was MIA for 33 years. Yeah, that's the idea that he went to India and Egypt to study mysticism and all that stuff, which most people, a lot of people take as learning hand magic. The old sleight of hand. You're like, how many fish do I have here? I've never met you, have I, sir? 2. Do we see 2 fish? And a multitude of fish. Sir, take those down to you and your family. Fantastic. Absolutely. Now, ma'am, come up here. We've never met before. Can you come up on stage or whatever here? Can you see these 2 loaves? Yeah, check those out. Make sure those are real loaves. And yeah, there we go. They smell like bread. It's normal bread. Nothing interesting. No hinges or anything in those. Ladies and gentlemen, a multitude of bread. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Take the bread with you, ma'am, and thank you very much. And you might want your watch. Yes, you might want your watch. So, right, and then he's up here going, let's see, who wants the moneylenders in the temple? Give me up a guy. Which card is the moneylender? How does Hal read the chat? It goes by so fast. I catch it in pieces, and then I have a thought, and then I go back. Can't get it all, but I try. Also, I absorb. Your brain can take in more words than it can. What is it? Like sublingually? No, it's under your tongue. I'm forgetting the term for it, but where you have to speak every word you read. Can I explain 2 Corinthians? Yes. The two Corinthians walked into a bar, and tip your waitress. Thank you very much. Val, the quicker picker upper. By the way, I think that might be the birth of a bit, because I happen to think Jesus, the Presto at the Presto Club, might really explain a lot. That's what, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a little play I like to call Jesus at the Presto Club. Sir, all right, and this is a dead person, and whoa, look at him floating. And what are they? Now, how did this person die? Saw it in half, say you. Nope. There they are, a whole person. Thank you very much, sir. Your belt. Yeah. Did Jesus just get a gig in Las Vegas? Right. Think you can slow down the chat, Hal? No, I can't, because if you'll notice, it is not one chat, it is all chats. All chats, everyone chat. Mr. Shaw already did that? Yeah, it didn't surprise me. Jesus Copperfield. Jesus the prop comic. 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4. Is that the standout one for you, Paul? I don't have that one memorized. I'll check. Hold on. Paul's asking for it. 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4. Let's do it. Okay. 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4. Now this is the introduction of the gospel that he's basically, this is the part where he's telling you that this is the word you'll use, and the word shall be this. Right, there you go. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you of the gospel I preached to you, which you received on and which you have taken your stand. By this gospel you are saved, if you hold firmly to the word I preached to you, otherwise you believe in vain. Obviously, just like the Second Amendment, Republicans read basically half a verse of what Jesus says. For what I received, I passed on to you in first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried and he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures. I love how they lay it off on the Scriptures. According to the Scripture. Come on. Jesus is the Son of God. According to Scriptures. Don't fucking at me, okay? It's literally the first time in history that somebody said, "Don't at me," was basically Paul. Right. Well, he was quoting Jesus. That was Paul. Right. The Hallelujah Tour. Hallelujah. Right. Jesus aged Christ on a popsicle stick. Who is it, Mr. Singleton? Oh, you got your Jason gear on and ready for a marathon? Excuse me, for the first one, you have to be dressed like his mother. I'm not nitpicking here. But the first movie, his mom did all the killing. I don't want to bum you out, but spoiler alert, it took the vengeance and death of Jason Voorhees' mother. Yes, and no mask till 3. That's right. That's absolutely right. The hockey mask didn't come in till later. That was a branding choice. We got to spice it up a little bit. Let's bring in the sports fans. You know what demographic the Friday the 13th movies are missing? Hockey fans. That was it. Wasn't Jefferson a deist? He was indeed. Which means he believes in a God, but he believes it can't fit into the corpus callosum of a human being. It's too big. And anybody who pretends to know or says they know is full of shit. Which is, I think, the ballpark you'll find me in. No, he was no Hanson brother. That's true. He had a burlap bag. That's right. It was a sack. It was like a little potato sack. It wasn't a full burlap thing. And it was because the burn, or the water log, I guess, technically, makeup for the rotten body makeup just looked like shit. That's a sign of creativity, kids. You could solve a lot of problems by masking your villain. Burlap Vuitton, yeah. Okay, coach, we're just putting on the foil. Just watched Harry Sparks and Vince Gill play a song at the Ryman. Oh yeah, Rail Guy, that's my dad and Vince Gill. That's right. Nice. Let's see. Did you know the Survivor from the original has a Crystal Lake wine? No. That's amazing, though. Does it taste like pond water? Jesus. Oh yeah, my dad. Weirdly enough, the one kind of celebrity friend that we've had most of my life is Vince Gill of all people. Multi country music award winning Vince Gill. Good friends with my dad, always has been. What do you think of the special counsel for the Biden documents? I'm for it. I'm for it. Don't delay, look straight into it, because they're going to end up hitting bottom. It's going to be super frustrating for Republicans. There's like, there'll be one of this like mishandling documents. This was a copy of a copy. Even if, by the way, if it wasn't like out of date shit from when he was vice president that's no longer germane in the current year. And the idea that he went, oh shit, let's make sure there's nothing out there and do exactly what's right. That's what the investigation will show. I give a fuck. I'm dead serious. Like I was clamoring about like post the whole fucking Hunter Biden laptop, hard drive. And then they do, and it's bigger than the hard drive capacity of the laptop he allegedly left. And according to John Paul McIsaac, the laptop that Hunter left, it wasn't even full. Like he didn't get all the files. So fuck it. Look into it. Give me all the daylight. I'm for it. Do you think Obama declassified some stuff? There's a chance, but I don't think that matters. I think it's a matter of like the timing and level of classification. By the way, top secret versus, just classified, like classified eyes only or classified within the realm of what the vice president. He kept his security clearance after being vice president at the same level, by the way. Most presidents do. Remember when they turned Trump's off? And the vice president, while nobody has this fantasy, I can magically declassify stuff like Trump says he did, which is a garbage thing too. Again, dig into both equally. I have no problem with that. But when they look at the Trump stuff, it's just going to look cartoonishly shitty. Called Pure Prairie. Pure Prairie League? Yes, that's where Vince Gill started. He was in Pure Prairie League when he saved my life. Yep. Vince Gill saved my life. There you go. Safer by the vet than by the pool chemicals. Yeah, and again, like they're going to make it like the ones that were at the Penn Center in the locked closet are equal to the ones that were in the garage mixed in with personal documents and that were classified like, memos or uncopied. It'll be silly. Like I said, look into it. Dive into special counsel. Dig a fucking hole. Do you notice I didn't sweat any of the, like the Durham report stuff? Remember that shit? Who cares? Honest to God. And by the way, why Nero wasn't missing documents? Because more than likely, because it was they're on the Presidential Records Act, these were like secondary documents, the kind of stuff that Trump is saying, these are mine. These is just a note from fucking the prime minister of fucking Israel or something like that saying thanks for the chocolate cake. That it's that level of stuff, but it doesn't matter. They'll go through it and then they give it to them. And then it's copies and like I said, if there's anything that has to be at NARA that they're like, okay, we have that and it's cleared and we're good, which is what it will be. Like by the time they're done with it, and I'm fine. It was in the glove of his vet. It's because I think it was Malcolm Nance was talking about how he was taking his medical records at one point, and there were mission stuff about where he was stationed and what he might have been exposed to, probably a burn pit related stuff to make sure he's checked for whatever. All that, that he found things in his medical file, realized it was secret, took it back and said that shouldn't be there, signed a piece of paper, and then they took that stuff and gave his medical records back to him. There is no doubt that Biden has a bunch of those documents as well. And the health documents of any president or vice president will be classified or declassified. Yeah, they're declassified, Jack. It's all it took. It was just a dark Brandon Ray. I have seen Vince in concert when he comes in the room, put your guitar down. Yeah, he's very good. He's also playing with the Eagles right now. Monterey has turned into an island. Holy smokes! Yeah, from the rain. Do you mean Montecito or Monterey? Or like, because Montecito's having the same issue. Green grass and tides forever. All air inoculations are listed and where you receive them. Right, exactly. I'm not traveling. I was on another podcast promoting a Nerd Halen gig next weekend. So thank you for understanding that. And if you have to watch this later because the timing's off, I apologize. And I'll be on at the regular time this afternoon. Fear not. Next week, however, I might have a Friday morning live TV thing that I have to do here in town, and then I'll rush back over and do my show after that. Just heads up next week. And then Wednesday morning, I might have to punt the morning show so that I can get back to Vegas in time to do the afternoon show from here, because we're driving back from LA after the jam. Unless we feel like total assholes right after the jam and just drive back like I normally do. Because I'm a busy boy. There's lots going on. So, there we go. Yeah, there's a difference. Willful retention and theft is different than. Is this your pen? It was in my briefcase. You said I picked up your paper by mistake. Like, that's not a crime. Saying I picked up your paper by mistake, but it's mine now because possession is 9/10 of the law. Vince Gill is absolutely still alive. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. It's nice to have that permission once in a while. The TikTok of fake news is how it continues to hide, censor, and cover up the Twitter files reports. Week 6, yes, yeah. I hide them by tweeting the bullshit in them and dunking on them specifically. As a matter of fact, this morning there was a new drop. These are the Twitter files are the new Q drops, and Taibbi put some shit out that was. I have to say, look, I expected the Twitter files could have gone one of two directions. And I'll show you what I pointed out in mine, which, by the way, includes addressing the final tweet because I read the whole thing. But in the, I thought the Twitter files could go one of two directions. One is they get access to more stuff, and the evidence of, FBI colluding with big tech would get deeper and more obvious, and it would look like something bad was happening or something bad was indeed happening. That's a possibility because Trump was running the place when all this was happening. And it was Chris Wray is his dude. So there's, I don't know what the fuck. But the other way is, of course, it could just evaporate in and they just stop. The one direction I didn't really factor in is that they would keep hammering this and it would get weaker and weaker as it went on. Because the latest drop was fucking embarrassing. It was great. And by the way, welcome trolls. Glad you could be with us. All of us have one thing in common in life. Our time is the one thing we can never get a refund on. And when you spend your time with me, I for the people who like the show, I feel I deliver and make that worth your while, that I'm giving you a little something and you're enjoying it, and maybe it adds a little information and fun the rest of your day. If you hate watch, it's amazing. I don't know how you do that. I have to watch some stuff, but for my job, because of what I'm trying to convey as a message and show contrast, this on the other hand, yeah, this is amazing. I mean, maybe you don't have anything else to do. Probably not. Or it's a decent job. What do you get? And by the way, you're welcome here, and trolls are always welcome here as long as you stay away from the racial epithets. You'll have to put that in another chat room. I understand it might be hard. It's a knee-jerk reaction at this point, but just dial it back a notch. Stay within the TOS, and you'll be just fine. Katie Porter happy? Yes, I think Katie Porter will be fantastic. If she's running for Senate. She's already announced, and she was smart to get out ahead of it. Because there's going to be other people. I think was it Barbara Lee and Schiff have been talking about it. Barbara Lee, I think, even officially announced afterwards. Who's claiming that Lisa Marie died from COVID? The usual deniers. No, I think they're claiming that. I think those folks think the vaccine killed her. That's anybody who has a heart attack now, even though it's the number one way people die in the United States for fucking ever. Ask her dad. Anytime somebody has a heart attack or a heart problem now, it's all vaccine related. Whether they've been vaccinated or not, I give you the diamond effect. Yeah. Yeah, she had cardiac arrest. Her husband did CPR on her. They did epinephrine on her. Got a pulse back. Took her to the hospital. She passed away there. It's just very sad. And yeah, anybody who dies of vax did it. Absolutely. Patreon's dissemble. Then get back on. Okay. Yeah, she looked rough. That video of her at the, I think that was at the Golden Globes. Was she on the carpet of the Golden Globe where she was like, help me out here or whatever. She was hanging on her boyfriend. Yeah, she looked a mess. It looked like she, and a lot of, like the second to last time I did CPR on someone who had a heart attack, this guy at my health club in LA in Santa Monica keeled over. And while I was doing compressions and giving him mouth to mouth, I realized that his lips were super pink, not infused with blood red, but looked like almost like lipstick. And it was because he had been drinking Pepto all day, because I believe, in retrospect at that moment, it was clear he thought he was having heartburn and it was actually small heart attacks. And so he'd had little ones all the way up to the big one. And the she we're talking about is Lisa Marie Presley. Yeah, and there could be, yeah, heart attack is different from cardiac arrest. No. All right. Her heart stopped. That's cardiac arrest. It's still a heart attack. Why your heart stops is because she didn't stop because oxygen flow was cut off to her body. It's a distinction without a difference. Anyways, point is, it was clear to me that he thought he ignored his symptoms. Yeah, heartburn. Small heart attacks can feel like heartburn, and that's what he thought. He was obviously sipping Pepto-Bismol to deal with it for a day or so beforehand, and then he had it. And that's why people should check their pulse, and why grip strength and all those other signs are very important. Yes, I know. But a heart attack is why the heart stops. Again, important medical distinction, but for the purpose of her husband seeing that she went into cardiac arrest where her heart stopped, the why of it leading up to it is effectively a heart attack. And a heart attack, by the way, is a generic way of expressing when anyone's heart stops, arrests, and anything that isn't a tachyarrhythmia or a misaligned arrhythmia. I mean, if your heart stops, most people think of that as a heart attack, a convulsing of the muscle for whatever purpose. So that's why they come in and say they had it was cardiac arrest. It was their heart did this, but they describe it as a medical professional, which is, heart attack is more the colloquialism. It's not that important. Yep. Yeah, like if you lose strength in your left side. It's the same thing with strokes. A lot of times when people have strokes or heart attacks, they start feeling their pain in their left arm, and their pulse goes weak, and they lose a bit of grip strength. It's harder to close the arm, right? That's one of the ways. Like famously in Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman, when his dad dies of a heart attack, he starts going, oh no, because he feels it in his arm, and he starts doing this. Please, I mean, for Chester, you had a cough a long time. Practice what you preach. I'm fine. I'm easing out of this. It's okay. I have been checked. We're okay. It's just a nag. I know some people wish it wasn't, but it is. Yes, left jaw pain, right. Myocardial infarction. She might have been on drugs again. That would be, she's just dealing with the death of her son recently. She's obviously had a lot of grief in her life. She may medicate. Some of her medication, that she was getting might have been bottom shelf or off market, as it were. And, you can overdo it. And waiting till the kids go to school to use is not that uncommon. There's a lot to it. So anyways, if men could handle pain, they'd have babies. Well, men's pelvises don't expand. They don't have cartilage in the right places. So if a man tried to pass a baby through, it would carve the baby to pieces. A woman's pelvis, which is why women's hips widen after they've had a child a lot of times, because the pelvis expands to allow it to happen. It's amazing. It's incredible. But it's also why it's possible. Scientology, unfortunately, probably told her to take vitamin D and sleep it off. Yeah, I wasn't aware of her Scientology stuff. Tolerance is way different, but you go with that explanation now. I was awake when I had my thumbs sawed open and 3 screws put in. Thanks for being patient with us. I try, John. It's all right. And don't have wombs. This is true, and it's not spelled that way. But yes, we don't have either. We don't have enough womb. Yeah, she quit Scientology. That's what I thought. I remember it being a blurb about her, kind of like the Will Smith story, but I never knew if it took off. You can always tell if an actor is a Scientologist, because at some point they have to do like a curiously odd space movie. Like Battlefield Earth in the case of John Travolta, which was really ham-handed and shitty. Or Oblivion, which is the Tom Cruise one, which I actually really liked. Have you guys seen Oblivion? Yeah, heart attack is not a medical term. That's the point I'm trying to make. Yep, from earlier. Doctor told you that a man would die from the pain of childbirth. Besides, they would hemorrhage and bleed out. I'm sure there are people who survived battlefield surgery in the Civil War who would like a word. Yeah, Oblivion was entertaining. It was entertaining, and there's a really it's basically like a 2-hour Twilight Zone movie, but I liked it. Yeah, it was interesting because I watched Minority Report with Ethan the other night, and we've been on a Colin Farrell kick. And he's the villain turned ally in that. And it's a spoiler alert. But he comes across as kind of a classic guy jockeying for your job villain. And he's terrific at it. And his whole being Catholic and kissing his cross, or it's a medallion of it might be a St. James medallion or St. John medallion. Anyways, he kisses it whenever there's a, and he's a man of faith, and everybody isn't. They're all sciencey, and that's what separates him, and it makes him. It's intended to make him look spooky and untrustworthy, which is really interesting. And then, right at the moment, he actually realizes that that Cruz's character isn't guilty. It's a great moment. It's a terrific use of a character. Also, he gets. In one of his first movies, Lucky, yeah, it was a Philip K. Dick story. Really great. One of the better uses of a short story of his. But he gets the big, run-up shot that Spielberg likes to do. I was on Jeopardy, and I won $50,000 for Doctors Without Borders. You're welcome. Colin Farrell is nummy. I have a great Colin Farrell story. He's a good dude. I met him in Toronto. Collateral is terrific. I agree. I love Collateral. I own that one. That's a good time. But in particular, and I'm going to blitz on the name. Hold on. Let me move down 1 Corinthians and move that out of the way so I can still talk to you guys. And I'm blitzing on her name right now, and I hate that. Samantha Morton. Yeah. So Samantha Morton plays Agatha, the main precog. And Banshees of Inisherin is terrific if you haven't seen it. But Samantha Morton, and this is in case here's the cast, I just brought it up again. Samantha Morton, that's her. She plays Agatha, the main precognitive psychic. And by God, Max von Sydow is a huge man, and he's in this movie with Carlin and Tom Cruise, who are both short. Yeah. Anyways, so Samantha Morton, she's terrific as Agatha. She doesn't get a lot to do because she's just kind of floating in a tub most of the time, and then when she finally gets her out, she's crippled because she never walks and all this stuff. But it's really well done. And the speech she gives about his son and what happened to him, like what his life would have been had he not died, where she yells "run" at the end of it. Oh my God. But the speech where she's describing his life, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, is so fucking sad. It's heartbreaking. Like such a, you got this movie where, by the way, the CG is pretty fucking great for a movie of that time. Like, when is this? What year? 2002. And it still stands up. All the CG in it really does stand up. Yeah, he makes love to a pretty girl named Claire. Fuck me. That is so rough. Oh. Oh, God damn it. And she's telling that story, and then she backs up but he's 11 and the man runs so fast. And oh, God, it's just awful. And in this movie with all this CG and all this money and this giant production and this huge sci-fi movie, the whole movie shrinks the fuck down into that. We're talking about Minority Report, but it's just because that's how my brain works. We're jumping. But in Minority Report, the scene in the country house in this huge expensive movie, it all happens there. It all happens where she's just telling that small story, and Cruz is falling apart. He's saying, "I miss him so much." And his wife, like, I'm gonna get teary-eyed talking about it. God damn. It is why, by the way, one of the bigger reasons why. Thank you, Robert Brunswick and Bald Thanos. Thank you guys so much for putting up with my rambliness this morning, because I'm in podcast mode. I do. You guys are some of the voices in my head. That's just how it works. That moment in that, it sounds more like a chick flick now. That's fine. It's not. It's just sorrow in that moment, and it drives the rest of it. You have to understand the how driven he has to be to solve this involves him gouging out his own eyes on the black market. So it has to be his want and his solve on this has to be so fucking extraordinary you would go that far. So, anyways, her performance in that is terrific, and I love Colin Farrell in it. There you go. And you slow that chat so we can read it. No, I can't. I can't slow down I can only stop it temporarily. It was nice to hear Caleb's origin story of Nerd Halen. Yeah. The Total Recall remake was bad, though. I agree. It took all the fun and weirdness out of it, and all it had to do was take this much. Yes, In Bruges is fucking fantastic as a movie. I would say it's better than Banshees of Inisherin, but yeah. Oh, the Colin Farrell story. So, I'm at a party that I was invited to by one of by one of my co-stars on Queer as Folk, who played Hunter, and he was in a movie where he and another actor played the younger version. Oh, thank you, GMB. I will. We're going to get there one day. Where he played the younger version of this other actor and Colin Farrell. I'm blitzing on the other actor's name. But anyways, so we're just in a kitchen. And I walk in, and fuck if, like, it isn't, six, rando Canadian actor people at this party, and maybe a couple of grips and people that are working on their thing. And leaning next to the sink is Colin Farrell. Here you go. So he's leaning back. He's got his hands on the sink. He's just kind of leaning back this thing. And I notice, and I don't know whether it's because he read a book or something, but he is doing this primate dominance exercise where you hold someone's gaze without blinking longer than they can and this might have been partial to the character that he was playing. So sometimes you just pick up a trait, and people who are psychotic or have sociopathic tendencies tend not to blink, and they can hold your gaze longer than you can. And when you finally blink, that's their moment of dominance. So it's like an old stupid managerial primate trick that people do. You don't blink until they blink, and you're in charge. So I noticed him, and he might have just literally been practicing this for, I guess, for the part, or maybe it was just him. Yeah, maybe he was just alpha mailing at the time. Maybe he was just dealing with other folks. It's not that strange. It's not, it's an alpha male trick. But then it also, again, I've done a shit ton of weird things creating characters over time. I learned that I could throw a baseball left-handed. I can pitch and catch left-handed because I made my character in Bleacher Bums left-handed because I thought he should look more awkward next to everybody else, and he was always writing. And left-handed writing looks awkward to some people, so that would be an immediate trigger. So that's how I did it. So, anyways, so he's doing this, and I'm watching him. He's going around the room. It's almost like clockwork as he's listening to people. And he's doing like this, and I can watch the other people who look at him, and they're like, oh my God, Colin Farrell's looking at me. Oh my God, like that. And then they all do it. And so he's like, it's like my turn. And the person that was right next to me, and I watched them do it, and then I went like this. I just squunched my eyes for a second, lubed them up as much as I could. Literally like rolled my eyes inside with my eyes shut. Opened my eyes so that they were good and lubricated so that I could just hold them up open for fucking ever. And it was on. And he's staring at me, and I'm staring at him, and neither one of us is fucking blinking, and it's got to start stinging for him before me because I prepped and made sure my eyes were nice and moist before it happened. And I'm just listening, well, yeah, okay, like that, and I'm not blinking, like that. And he starts to recognize what I'm doing, and it's like a thing. And then he starts walking towards me across the kitchen. This is a true story. Starts walking across the kitchen as he's talking to me, both of us, eyes wide open, fucking both our eyes burning like fuck, I have no doubt. And he walks right up to me, and he just like leans in, like with his cheek almost right up to mine, like never does it. Goes like this, right up to mine, and goes, good to meet you. Like that. That was it was so fucking, it was like, of all the celeb meetings I've had, that was, I think, the most curious. And the character of the meeting was itself a character. Was he drunk? No, I don't think so. As a matter of fact, I think he'd been working, so he was quite sober. Yeah, take a picture to last long. Yeah. And to this day, I will say I won the staring contest because he's the one who broke it with words, and he's the one who looked technically away to put his cheek next to mine. Had I been... No, I don't drink. Had I been 10 years into my career and he did that, I might have kissed him. Because anybody who leans in that close, you're like, hey, easy. But I was relatively new. I think we were 2 years into, I'd had Talk Soup and 2 years of Queer as Folk. Like, who the fuck am I? And he's Irish. So that immediately I'm Irish too, but his fucking accent can, mesmerize anybody who's around, and it's lovely. And he has a great intensity. It's called Brown Eyes, but whatever. Did he smell good? He smelled fine. That's probably how I knew he wasn't drinking. For the record, he did not. I'm sure he drinks now at work, or he did for a period of time, but he wasn't then, and he didn't smell of drink at the time. I didn't see it as a standout kind of a smell. As a matter of fact, it might have been because he was filming that day, and I had been filming that day, that we both, you see my help as, yeah, that we had both had our makeup cleansed off by a makeup artist earlier in the day. And so arguably in that moment, our faces would have smelt almost exactly the same. He did not reek. I've only had one actor that I met that, like, I was like, what the fuck? How is that okay? Ethan Hawke. I miss Talk Soup too. Yes, I've seen Requiem for a Dream. Yes, it's good. 20-year range, she turned and I kissed her on the neck on accident. Well, that's not necessarily an accident. Necks are good. That's why they call it necking. Yeah, I was at CAA for a meeting as a writer, by the way, and this was before Talk Soup. I had been ghostwriting for a sci-fi writer to make rent for years, and so I would do page one rewrites on this guy's scripts and get paid and he would get, and but he hated taking notes and he hated reading, so I had to sit there. I was like his assistant. Don't get me started. Anyways, we had a meeting at CAA, and I was like, fuck, man, this is the CAA offices. Wow. Oh, my God. And we didn't see any celebrities while we were sitting there. I was like, that's weird. I don't know. Maybe they just don't come in, or they come in. This is just the lobby for the losers like me. And in walks Ethan Hawke, like in this dirty coat, just looking like they'd rousted him off the pavement. And he was at least 12 feet away. And whoa, it was just like a brutal ripeness. And you know the smell I'm talking about. The acetic, the acid reflux, bad breath, cigarette meets hint of urine-y body odor smell, like the big wafting fuck. Yeah. Have I ever been to the Celebrity Center? No, I have not. Sometimes stand-ups do shows there, and I've never been invited to those. Did you miss anything exciting? Nah, no inside Hollywood stories or anything like that. It's been a kind of boring morning. Yeah. Oh, it's just bad. John Henson was great on Talk Soup. Indeed, he was. He's a good dude. There were people, I don't know why, at E who were trying to pit us against each other when I showed up for a long while. And then later on, I figured it out, is that they didn't want me to talk to him and find out who the good people are and who are the bad people at E. They wanted, if he thinks I hate him and I think he hates me, then we'll never talk and go, oh, that dude's the fucking problem. And that's why they did it. So, yeah, woof. What color is my aura? I'd like to think it's got a orangish hue, mostly. Did you ghostwrite George Santos' life back in the story and his run for the House? Roy, I'm good, but I'm not that good. It's not that. I would have thrown it all away. I would have stopped typing, laughed, and thrown it out the window. Yeah. Pink and purple, you think? Yellow? I think a nice mix. Not a rainbow. No, definitely not. How's Ashton Kutcher? I only have the experience of working with him on Dude, Where's My Car? And it was fine. He wanted to direct at the time, so there was a lot of interjecting of, with Danny Liner trying to kind of give notes, and the idea was that Philip Stark wrote it and he was from that 70s show, so I think Ashton kind of felt, and maybe rightly so, that it was his movie, and that he was the main guy, and Sean William Scott was like his sidecar, not necessarily an equal co-star. I'm not judging that thing, but that was essentially how it appeared. And so you can take, you can read all kinds of stuff into that. Again, I don't necessarily think I know what's going on with everybody, so I always I will, in normal life, if I'm interacting with somebody in public or whatever, I will judge them based on our public interaction and read very little into what just happened, because or what's going on in their life, because to some degree I don't give a shit. If you had a bad day, if you're a grown person, that's not anyone else's problem. That's why I've never understood hangry people. I don't care if you're grumpy, if you haven't eaten, you're a fucking grown-up. Throw some food in your fucking gullet. Just because you missed a snack, don't lay that being an asshole on anybody else. It's the same kind of thing. I don't grow up. If a kid's hangry, fucking fix it. If a kid's crying, let them take a nap or some shit. Make a space where they can go lay down. They're a child. But if you're a grown-up, fuck you. Right? But in a work environment where you see somebody regularly and you see them, all the time, then you start to get a feeling of, okay, it isn't a mood thing of something that happened that day. Is this how they are all the time? And if so, why? And again, which part of it do you excuse? And which part of it do you go, hey, fuck you. Why are you yelling at her? It's not her fault. That's the juggle I always operate in socially. And then comedians tend to do that. That's where we operate. We're the bullshit detector when, hey, now you're being an asshole. And I get to interject and bring the level of asshole in the environment down to an acceptable comedic level when somebody's popping off for no reason. If something has to pop off for real, that's life. So anyways, and it's, I'm sure, stress because of his first film. So even in those, I have met Ellen. I helped raise $250,000 for Prop 2 at her house when they only needed to raise $75,000 for it, and I was the auctioneer and I got it up to $250,000. You're welcome. Portia was very nice to me about it. I agree. I'll go eat something, for God's sake. Am I moody? Is that what it is? Ileana Douglas. I was on her podcast. She's lovely. We've only met digitally. Yeah. That's why movie sets have craft services. Yeah, go snack, you fuck. Portia was the best part of Ally McBeal. Yeah. Oh boy. Ally McBeal. There's Ally McBeal Queer as Folk crossover stories about Anne Heche that are, yeah. You should guess work at a museum, right? Yes, of the famous Douglases. That it must be nice. Yes, Ileana is a great actress. I agree. Yeah. Summer, mail a batch of fire cider for that throat itch. I will. How does the war in Ukraine end? With Ukraine taking back Crimea first, and then a slog in the Donbass for a few months, and then something extraordinary happening in Russia, and then the forces just move back to the original pre-2014 borders. Give or take 18 feet. That's my guess. Bachman died? Oh, you mean the drummer from BTO? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that this morning, too. Have I performed at the Apollo New York? I have not. Not yet, anyways. Hard to get excited about a star when you've met the president. I don't know, because I think it's different impacts. And I think a lot of people these days, I think because they've been disappointed in some people, that they're afraid to have heroes. And I am not. I am not. And maybe it's because the heroes I've had have always been ice skating uphill against public opinion. Because, you know, like as a lifelong Kiss fan, I've caught shit my whole life for any number of, you know, reasons why people think it's not worthwhile or not valuable and blah, blah, blah. So I developed that thick skin early. So, yeah. Have I ever met Mario Cantone? I have. Yeah. In New York, I think. How was I ever starstruck? Yes. Meeting Steve Martin at the Comedy Awards. Oh, well, thanks, Bjorn. How did you meet Tara Dublin? I found her on Twitter. Same. I found her on Twitter, too. Gene is a bastard, though? I don't think so. Gene's his own man and whatever. And again, you have to understand that every day of his life, he and Paul created this thing, you know, with Ace and Peter, but really there. And it was a thing. It was Kiss in the late 70s especially. Holy shit. And watching the Beatles had just broken up, knowing that things transition in and out, Gene and Paul both made it their life's work to keep that thing afloat because it had value, you know, as hard as they can. And they woke up every day when people were just shitting on them and forgetting about them and all that kind of stuff, and always made music and never harmed anybody in the process. Sorry. But if somebody makes music, again, I don't have to like the music you like to love that you love it. I don't have to like the comedy you like to love that you're laughing. It is not my fucking place. Ever. Especially when it's when it's music. Fuck off. How are my flying lessons going on? Well, thanks to the weather, not at all. Just ground school. But I did find a new school where I can go to regularly. But it's very expensive, so super chats will help. I'm just going to say, this is more expensive. It's gotten way more expensive since the last time I went. And I was like, oh, shit. Jason is greater than Freddie. Do you concur? I agree, yes. Scarier, certainly. Depends on what you were asking for. If you want, you know, titillating silliness, perhaps Freddie. Yeah. Kiss led to bands like, well, sure. They also influenced, you know, King's X and Guns N' Roses and all those guys. So the point is, I have always loved what I love in spite of whether anybody else loved it. And interestingly enough, more than anything else, more than I want to introduce you to music that I like and hope you like it as well, my goal in life is that you have that feeling. Not that you have that feeling about my tastes. And I think maybe that's the difference. Please don't do it, John Denver. I will not. John Denver, also a family friend, gave me a coat backstage in Lexington, Kentucky, when he played an auto show, and my dad had done guitar work for one of his guitar players, and we were backstage. He was very nice, and I was like 7, and he was flying in an experimental aircraft where the fuel gauge was behind him. He turned and looked. Knee hit the stick. I'm not interested in experimental aircraft. Period. Just saying. So, but again, I think that's crucial. And it might be something to just have people factor in when they're looking at people talking about stuff they like. Because I think a lot of people get stuck in the way people talk about it in middle school when they do this. when they see somebody like this band or I like this show or whatever, that their response is like, yeah, or yeah, it sucks. That's not input. Meaningless. That's you doing some sort of like territorial pissing. It has nothing to do with the value of music in your life or anyone else's. Thank you, Triva. Yes, that is how John Denver passed away. That's how he crashed his plane. My dad is not technically a luthier. He does not build acoustic guitars or acoustic instruments. He does fret work on them. So he does setups on them, and his special take on acoustic instruments is legendary, quite frankly, amongst the bluegrass crowd. Hal Sparks took a lot of shit from progressives in LA because I had the nerve to ask how they got to decommoditize the housing market in LA. Is that even real? What? I had the nerve to ask how they go about decommoditizing the housing market in LA. Is that even realistic? No, it is not. It is not. Water Goddess, it always goes back, those folks. And again, we talked about this when I brought up the fact that Marx said that you can't have socialism until capitalism builds it, builds a system that you can stack it on top of, which is a really shitty way to have a system that's supposed to be the alternative. Because that's like saying you can be a vegan, but not until you've eaten enough meat to be the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's fucking ridiculous. So there is no the issue most people have is the idea that capitalism versus wages for effort or work are inextricable in most people's parlance. And most of us operate, every extra thing in our life fits under the definition of capitalism, even on the strictest terms. So you work enough to feed yourself and your family and keep a roof over your head. And then any extra you have, you either add to your life by doing fun things with that money, or you invest it and hope it grows so that you can eventually, spend that on something bigger that you would like to make your life better, or leave something to your kids. That definition of capitalism is not going to go away even if you took money out of it, because the effort is the same thing. If you were digging for grubs to eat, at a certain point you'll have dug for enough grubs for yourself to eat and you could stop digging. But if the person who keeps digging gets another grub and hands it to their mate or their offspring or their dog, or fucking puts it in a jar, it qualifies as that definition of capitalism, and it's fucking dumb. Because you're never going to remove that from any effort-based economy. You're not. And anybody who argues this, a lot of times, it just gets silly. So yeah, until even when we go to healthcare, until you get to a point where you can reward healthcare providers, both the people, the nurses, all the way up to people who investigate and discover cures for things, all along that route. How do you get them to do more than the bare minimum, but by force? Am I related to Larry Sparks? We have a Larry Sparks. I don't know if it's that Larry Sparks. My dad is Harry. But yes, that's true, but in both senses, Harry Sparks, and he's a grown man. So that's the issue. Can't just be charitable. Well, that's the same thing, though. It's still profit from your endeavor. And what does charitable mean? What if it's just you and yours? Where's where's theft in that? We can go back to when people used to live in little serfdoms and fiefdoms, and understand that the apples are not going to pick themselves. And there are those who cannot pick apples who you would maybe be charitable to. But what do you do with those who will not pick the apples? Who absolutely can, but rely on you to do it, for them while you climbing the tree endangers yourself. You get scratches and thorns and what have you in the process. Very, 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 right. Yeah. By definition, the socialist system of the military-industrial complex is funded out of capitalist economy, so there's that. Yeah, and it's not technically socialist. It's simply just an internal repair structure. If you have a situation where you have a company that has, say, a certain kind of vehicle that only gets certain kinds of damage because of the certain kind of work it does, you're not going to take it to a regular mechanic, so you have to have your own in-house mechanics to work on it. That's not socialism within the confines of the company. That's just recognizing what the cost is. Yeah, Robbie Knievel. What a strange... Yeah, that one, yeah. Out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. 30K guys who were broken mic. His name was Rabies. He said, "No, wow." Would you ever go on an episode of Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates Jr.? Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I've already done 23andMe and shit. So, yeah. Yeah, none of that bothers me. I do think it's weird that he tries to dunk on people like, I'll have you know that your great grandmother or grandfather is the product of sexual assault. Like, motherfucker, go all the way back, in almost any human living on the planet. If you go back 12 ticks, 15 maybe, I got news for you. Everybody. I think it's weird. What do you mean? Your family held slaves. Yeah, that's even true of in the case of American black people, like black Americans. How will Republicans privatize Social Security? No. You were 9/10 human. You're one up on me, John. Did you ever do the Hot Ones show? Yeah, sure. Right, 250K home. You'll be surprised. You'll get that weird thing like, you have 60% less Neanderthal DNA than, yeah, absolutely. Like, I have that joke in my act about why I have so much English and Irish in it, because the English would just take breaks in between, forcing themselves on the other half of my family. Never mind the fucking Viking roots of the name Sparks, which is Sparker. That came through the same kind of channel. You think they showed up and started swiping right to pick a mate? Get the fuck out of here. 90% Sasquatch. We Viking bros. We are. Yes, we are. Wayne Kramer? Wow. Holy shit, Robert. That's impressive. And there's an argument that the Vikings and sort of the Chinese, Japanese, the Asians that came across the land bridge, it was their meeting that created Native Americans. If you're looking at the genetic tree lines, that's why there's so much European DNA in the, if you go back far enough, in every Native American in the country. Not just like, oh, okay, a couple generations back, they intermarried. Even further than that, they're like their maternal line or their paternal line, whatever the direct native direction, still has a ton of Northern European because of Nova Scotia. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of the talk, the interesting thing about the theory that those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, is largely based on the fact that a lot of the history that we've been talking about in the near present is still ongoing. We're like, oh, the Soviet Union ended in 91. No, it didn't. I personally believe they rope-a-doped for about 15 years and then started their comeback. They never went away. And what we're forgetting is that there was not enough time between their existence and when they, to go, oh, they really do mean it. It's like being friends with a shitty friend after some big, there's got to be a decent enough amount of time where they've matured and you've matured and things have changed before you get interested in having dinner again and seeing if things are okay. We never had that. It was just like, oh, you're a new person? Cool. Let's keep dating. Like, that's what it was. And in the case of like Russia and the United States, it's like, oh, I guess we can have sex now. Like, you seem fun. And then you're like, oh, okay. The doomed to repeat it part is because we haven't actually finished the line we're in of history and the changes that are going on. It's still in the same flux. But there's also this weird, oddly ridiculous attachment to people's, like, the sins of the father in terms of everybody 150, 200, a fucking 1,000 years ago, as if that's relevant to how you would interact with any other human being on the fucking planet at this point, living the way that you have. The USSR became KGB, Russia, mafia ruled. Yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah. So we all should be happy if it were not for ancestors putting up with shit, no one would be here. Yeah, that's exactly it. Nobody skips awful. Everybody deserves your charity until they act otherwise. And disliking any group because of their genetic makeup is racist and awful, and stop it. How are UFOs real? Well, technically, an unidentified flying object, if any flying object you can't identify is really flying and really an object, you just don't know what it is. Whether they're alien spacecraft, sure. Yeah, history never ends. Right. No matter how much History Channel wants you to think so. Because the History Channel really, if they're going to do daily live shit, it shouldn't be the fucking ice road trucker bullshit. They should have C-SPAN on. I have met Ozzy. I don't know that he would remember, but I have met Ozzy. I think it was at a VH1 thing. I believe. I agree. Irish rocks. It's my island. Yeah, and rip Portland. Again, wow. It's a rough week. Portland. Phew. Worst celebrity ever. Dennis Miller. Yeah. But then I met him when I wasn't famous. So, yeah. I have never met Mel Tillis, but that would have been lovely. I have not watched Curse of Oak Island. This turned into an Ask Me Anything, which I like. Yeah, the worst one was because I was working with Busey was amazing. Like, he's a wreck. You can't judge him as a human being. The dude's got fucking a bag of sand in his head. But yeah, I was working for Marianne Williamson doing setting up Ethernet cables at her house in Montecito. True story. And her neighbor was Dennis Miller. And at one point, he yelled at her about some tree shit that she was doing on the property or whatever. And Emma, her daughter, was in the car at the time. And he's like swearing. And I walked down to, she drove off because he was swearing. And she was like 4 maybe. 5. Anyways. And I was working at the house and I just walked down to the end of the property at his wall and we had words. And he was on my punch first, ask questions later list for a long fucking time. And you know why? It wasn't even that. I mean, that'd be reason enough. But, and I've never had the opportunity, lucky for him, I suppose, in that regard. But he, on his show, when he was still doing his HBO show. I'm cool with edgy humor. That's fine. I think there are only a couple of things that are off limits. Minors and people with physical parts of their physical person they cannot do anything about. Which, by the way, which is why I think weight, both heavy and skinny, are both fodder for humor. And you could take that punch if you can swing it and knock yourself out. And if it's funny, it'll work. And if it isn't, it'll go and blah, blah, blah. But you don't make fun of somebody's nose or whatever because that's there. They can't change that. It's like height or any of that shit. So he had on the week before this particular episode. I remember it was like fucking yesterday. Dennis Miller had the National Spelling Bee was on, you know, like where for kids. And the kid who won it that year was would absolutely set off anyone's gaydar. Very, you know, and just, but so proud of himself that he won. And so, and you could just, you know, you knew, no big deal. That's that kid. But an amazing win by this kid, killed it. And Dennis Miller put his face up on the little screen next to him like that and said, "Your word is effeminate." And I was like, fuck you. Fuck you. That's not a grown man, Lindsey Graham in the closet kind of joke about an adult who can take it or whatever. That was a 13-year-old fucking kid. And Dennis Miller on the hippest show on HBO basically like dunked on the queer kid on his show. And I was like, I'm done. Like there were moments where I was like ebbing and flowing as you do with any artist or any comedian, anyone. And I was like, nope. Fuck you. It still gets my gander up. I still like, nope. Just a piece of shit. That's just it's a shitty thing to do to a teenage fucking kid. Like, and believe me, when I was on Talk Soup, some jokes like that were floated. And my answer was no. And they would, some of the writers would push back like, but it's funny. I'm like, yeah, it's funny to you. And I didn't say this, but your douchebag friend that thought it up with you, but it's not. Because I can't do anything about it. Anything you can do something about, fair game. Anything. Even if you're short and you have like leg extension surgery and you decide to do that or whatever, or you body mod yourself into something and you want to look like a cat or whatever the fuck, that's your choice to do it. But no one has to react to it the way you react to it. Doesn't work that way. And it's okay. You did that. You made a choice. The joke is about the choice, not the thing at that point. So, hence my ease at all the filler and marzipan jokes that I make, because it's a choice. And I personally feel that when you're writing especially, there's 10,000 jokes for every joke you're writing. You just have to find the other one that's equally as funny to you and put that one in. So, and I know like writers that were on that show. Rick Overton, I think, won an Ace or an Emmy for his writing on that. And I never sat Rick down and asked him whose joke that was. I probably should. I don't know that he'll remember. He smokes a lot of weed. I doubt it was his, though. I guarantee it. But for me, that's a hard line. But these idiots think being gay is a choice. Maybe so. But he didn't say your word is gay. He said your word is effeminate, which is a trait the kid had innately or how he was being. which is like, he's an asshole. There's no, and again, if you want to have that argument with Milo Yiannopoulos, who thinks it is a choice and thinks he's chosen to no longer be gay and whatever, knock yourself the fuck out. As a matter of fact, choice jokes about Milo Yiannopoulos are on the table because he has stated his opinion that it is a choice and he's choosing separately, and you can make fun of his belief about that. But that doesn't entail fucking with somebody else's existence. Right? And that's the difference. It might sound like splitting hairs to people, but it's really important. So yeah. Yeah, and yeah, right. Milo Yiannopoulos is an adult. This kid was 13 fucking years old when Miller made that fucking joke. And so fuck him. Ricky Gervais, my only problem with Ricky Gervais is the hypocritical nature of his comedy at times, because he feels this like he can, group fuck with people in Hollywood as if he's not a part of them, which is not true at all. He also, I find the movie Ghost Town very telling, considering, and look at the kind of stuff he makes. But Al Joe Rogan is the unfunny, egomaniacal douchebag he seems. Is he? No, or he wouldn't have gotten as far as he did. He has very bro energy, and that's why it works and how it works. Whether you like it or not, that's how it's succeeded. You want to know its recipe for success is that he's effectively a sponge that, it's how can I put this? Joe Rogan is like the ceramic that urinals are made out of. There's a purpose for it. And sometimes there's splashback and you hate that. But most of the time you think next time you'll be able to aim right and none of it will get on you. And that's how his guests and everybody who's on the show operate. They try to go and use the Joe Rogan urinal because they got to go and you need it and it services you and your career, but sometimes it gets some on you and sometimes you dodge it and you're like, oh, that wasn't half bad, and that's why they make clips out of it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah, the Joe Rogan experience is a urinal, and that's giving it credit for being necessary at times. It's like a truck stop urinal. Beggars can't be choosers. So other than that, I have no idea. I have no opinion. Also, he's baked the whole fucking time. Did you guys see he had Peter Zion on? And I've talked about Peter Zion, and he finally had him on. And Zion basically dunks on all of Rogan's preconceived notions about shit. And every clip of Zion that they put up ends with Zion telling him something that is materially and obviously true, and Rogan's response is, that's it. It's great. It's amazing. Tell you about Jim Brewer. I don't know that I've had any run-ins with Jim. I just always thought it was weird that he was a clean comedian and then he's just fucking like right-wing Trumper. Pfft, odd. Pro tip, dudes and fellers, if you stand, first put some TP in the bowl, aim for it, and won't splash. It's a good point. It clogs it up, fucks it up for everybody else, but I understand what you're doing. Philip, is Philip a handshake or a hugger? Oh, we hugged. Absolutely. Love the parody of Tim Heidegger did of Rogan. I didn't get to see it, but yes. Okay, there you go. Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler, that I just saw that go by, is sincerely the sweetest person on earth. Man to God. And Bill Burr, when I met him, was very nice. He played drums at the Rock Against MS thing that I did on Highway to Hell. I think that's what they did. And it was nice to meet him and kind of like say hi. But Burr always has, and again, he comes I really do see him as kind of a sweetheart on most things, just kind of like a crotchety old neighborhood dad dude who's just old before his time. But he had this look in his eyes, and it's anytime I've seen him around, it's this kind of like side tick that his eyes do when not when he's on stage and he's performing. He does it blinking that way because the crowd is that way. But and there, you can't. Oh, absolutely, Regina. I appreciate it. He this constant thing, which I think is tied somehow to his sort of paranoia and conspiratorial shit, where he spends way too much fucking time watching YouTube videos about like hollow earth and black helicopters and all that shit. Who's nicer, Henry or Keanu? Henry. Keanu's a good person. He's just shyer and more reserved. Henry is actively sweet. That's what I'm saying. I am a Wasp fan. Absolutely. Yes, I am. I am definitely a Wasp fan. It's weird to me that Blackie is doing this like slow roll Dave Mustaine right wing Christianity arc. It's odd, but whatever. You do you. The Still Not Black Enough album, I love it, and it's mixed for shit, but I still enjoy it. And the song The Idol, I love a lot, so there you go. Henry Rollins is, yeah, he seems nice enough. I don't know that I've ever run into him. Yeah. It seems with Burr, it's his shtick, yes. No. Winkler's not gay. How will be Henry Winkler when he grows up? That's true. If I'm lucky. What's up with Journey and Jonathan Cain? Oh, Jonathan Cain is married to Paula White, and she was stealing money from Journey's touring account. Should have been much bigger. Crimson Idol. I agree. And the Headless Children, that album is fucking great. Have I ever met Jim Carrey? I have not. Yeah. What I think of Andrew Dice Clay, I think it was a character and people largely overreacted, including him. The idea of almost like a Jewish performance artist doing a fake Italian character that turned into what people thought was really him was less about the comedy he was doing, because as a character, it's funny. What wasn't funny about Dice after a while was the dudes showing up at his show taking it seriously, that didn't look at it as a gag. What do you think about Andy Dick? I think we're all going to find out about the Andy Dick murders a few years from now, because he's curiously around when people die. Daniel Sloss. Maybe, I don't think so. I've met Sean Hayes. Yeah, I've met Sean Hayes. He's very sweet. Oh, thanks, 50 plus. After QIF, you thought I was 100% gay? Nope. 100% not. Sorry. That's just how it works. Yeah, the Andy Dick murders. The guy on Suddenly Susan, Phil Hartman, apparently it was Andy Dick that gave his wife the cocaine. Remember that story? And then Chris Farley was partying with Andy the day he died or the night before. I'm making this up. It's a conspiracy theory. I'm joking, but his proximity is true. Do you have a favorite metal cover song? Either direction, pop song or pop band covering a metal song. Oh, that's a tough one. How metal are we talking? We talking like Metallica level, or are we talking like Queensryche? Iron Maiden. I met Mike Patton, didn't seem so nice. He's got some issues. Inadvertently starts an Andy Dick revival. Yeah, right. Yeah, as long as he doesn't stay over here. Shit. I was on Howard Stern's show once, which was weird for Howard. Poor guy. I came on and he was, it was to promote Queer as Folk. And he knew me because we'd used some clips, I think, on Talk Soup, but he knew who I was. And they'd set this whole thing up. And I think he was under the impression, because Robin watched Queer as Folk regularly, he was under the impression that the reason I took, yeah, no worries, 50 plus, absolutely. I'm never. He was under the impression that I was gay and in the closet and hiding it because only somebody who was really gay would do Queer as Folk, which is a weird preconceived notion, but a lot of people had it. And I think he really only, glances at Talk Soup, but then, had watched a couple episodes because of Robin or something like that, and was under the impression that Michael was me and I was Michael, and that my voice and the way I carry myself and how I interact and whatever would be the same. And that his plan, it seemed, thanks 50 plus. Always nice when I'm in the Albuquerque airport. It's a thing I have. But when I walked in, I could see him kind of deflate about it because they had planned, apparently, all these jokes trying to get me to come out of the closet. And that was going to be the thing. That was going to be what the whole point of me being on was, is that they were going to out me. And you could see that they assessed after about 4 sentences that I guess their gaydar needle just dropped, and they were like, oh, that's not going to work. It's radio anyways, and blah, blah, blah. So the other tack they took was, isn't it gross kissing a guy? And that's usually where the rest of it, it's what happened when I was on the Tonight Show, same shit. And so, so there, and I had my kind of, stacked answers for that kind of shit. But I have a thing about when I'm on shows where I'm promoting things, especially when it's stand up, but even shows, that as long as I get in the date and the time of what I'm talking about, the rest of it should have nothing to do with it. It should be, I always try this. I always try to, and you'll see it sometimes if enough of you have watched my interviews, that I'll crowbar the interview in another direction. So we're talking about anything but whatever they were planning on talking about, because it will always be the same shit. It will always be the first 3 things on your fucking Wikipedia and something that the biggest fan in the office wanted brought up. That's it. And they'll get to that one no matter what, because that person will usually be brought in to say hi. So I always, I try to just, yank the wheel. And it's, yeah. Oh my, yes. Oh, it's going to be raining a lot. I was sure you were gay on QAF because you're an excellent actor. Well, thank you. Thanks very much. Did I break Jack's heart on QAF? Jack Weatherall? The guy who played my Uncle Vic? What do you mean? Which Jack? I broke a lot of hearts on Queer as Folk, I have to say. In real life. You're welcome. Chris Titus is lovely. I like Chris Titus. He and I are both super Prince fans. We totally bonded on that. Yeah. Anybody who's a big Prince fan, okay by me. A legit one. So there. I'm an actor. I have prospects. Right. Oh yeah, that Jack. How you're ever in a local Chicago band? I jumped on stage with a bunch of them. Depends on how far we're going back. My band has played in Chicago a couple times. Yes, Adam. Adam 12? Adam 12. I like that. That's nice. Absolutely. I do a great MTG. I don't know if that's criticism by faint praise, or I don't know if that's a good thing. I had Prince hair from 86 to 98. That's nice. I have met Bill Maher. He hates me. because he got mad that I was talking to his date in Chinese because she was Chinese. This is a long story. He's still pissed. It's one of the reasons why he won't let me on the show anymore. Yes, 01 is still a band, although different members, different lineup. Mike shows like the long version of the Armageddon Report. It totally is. I should probably sign off in 2 minutes. I'll do it at 12:30 because that's enough time. We made up for it. Doesn't he hate everyone? No, he does not. He's self-involved. It takes a lot to get him to actually dislike someone, and I'm proud to be in that column. Bill Murray seems genuine. He's got a wall, as anybody in that situation would, and he brings it come and go, and lets it come and go as based on how safe he feels, I'd imagine. Yeah, I know, it's late. Bill Maher's such a creep, doesn't seem to understand 20-year-olds don't want to hang out with him. The problem, Panios, is that some of them do. Sorry. You ever, like, whenever you encounter someone, and I'll end on this. I think this is great. I gotta get going. Let me finish on this note and just leave you with this thought. Anytime you encounter someone and you're like, why the fuck would that guy or that girl think I would talk to her? Or why would that person think that I should do this for them? Or why do they think they can treat me like that and I would do this? Right? Why? Why would they do that? Why would they think that? Well, you wouldn't, but other people have. Lots of them. And more than likely, the vast majority of the people that they've run into treat them like that, or take their bullshit, or want to hang out, or whatever. I'm not kidding. Just know that. There's a lot of people out there, 8 billion people in the world. If you start, I guess if you bobert your dick around in enough bowling alleys, you'll get the response you want from somebody. And that's the shotgun approach that a lot of shitty people use. So don't be surprised if somebody comes up to you and acting like they own the world and they think they're better than you and blah, blah, blah. Or they think like, why would this person hit, this older dude or this woman, who likes cougaring or whatever, hit on people our age? Well, because it's worked a lot. It does. It works more often than not. So much so that it's become a habit with them because there's a payoff. 1,000 no's and 1 yes is still a yes. That's exactly right. They don't care. And by the way, there are some people who don't see the no's. They happen, but shrug it off. Next one. I'm looking for a yes. I'm a yes farmer. You know what I mean? Nobody who's like picking strawberries is counting the number of leaves in between the strawberries they find. Do you understand? And in that moment, you're like a leaf going, why does this motherfucker think he can just fidget around and tug something off the branch and take it with him? And you're like, you ain't it. That's not what he's taking. He's just looking for that strawberry that he can fuck off with. And it happens. I'm telling you. Yes, Hal, the king of analogies. Right, shots on a goal. Same thing. You don't see the leaves for the strawberries. You're just fucking picking strawberries. And there are people where the fact that they are fame seekers and the fact that they do that are absolutely in line. It is an aspect of their psychology that has made them successful in a couple of different areas. Man's only as good as their opportunities. Yeah, it's like that. Man is only faithful as their options. I think 1962 Libby in the chat. And by the way, I would like to say for the record, you do the same thing in traffic. You're looking for the gap in traffic, and occasionally a car might be against the gap you're trying to go for, and you notice that car, but you're not going to memorize the fucking color of all the cars you're passing in traffic. It's the same thing. It's your reticulated activating system choosing what your target is. It's the don't think of an elephant stuff, or if I tell you I have a lemon in my hands, slice it in half, I'm sticking my thumbs in, peeling it off in the rind, and then the pulp in it is starting to burst or whatever, and there's lemon juice coming out, and I just take a giant bite out of it, and your urge to salivate because I'm telling you that story and there's no fucking lemon anywhere in sight. That's the same thing. It's your brain. Certain people train their brains. You do it all the time, like I said, for whatever your task is. That's their task. That's it. And now I have I don't know if it's the dishonor, but the infamy that goes with being the guy who came up with the picking strawberries analogy, which will live on in infamy or fummy, hopefully fummy, but perhaps infamy. Yeah, you're still salivating, aren't you? that you're out, you're going to the singles bar or whatever. Tonight we're picking strawberries. I don't give a shit about the leaves, picking strawberries. And that's right. That's how it works. And like I said, you do it in every part of your life in one degree or another, and that's the area where they do it. And like I said, it pays off. If there were never any strawberries, they wouldn't show up. Salivating, puckering, it happens. So anyways, I love you guys. I will see you this afternoon. Even though I, bugged off, I went long, and I think that makes up for it. And I hope that other people who are watching the show later don't go, motherfucker, now I got to have lemonade. Yeah, that's right. I put the thought of lemonade in your head right as I'm leaving the show. I mean, what kind of an asshole would...